The Auburn Tigers landed a wide receiver via the transfer portal. And I'm not going to be coy about it. I think he can make an impact in 2022.
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tiger, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's Monday. We're joined by Lindsay Crosby of auburndaily.com, also the host of Locked On MLB Prospects. And just a quick note, Lindsay, we are not going to talk about baseball today. We are doing this before Auburn has a chance to win a regional. We don't even know if they'll be playing FSU or UCLA at this point, but we will have a baseball-specific segment, third segment, tomorrow at the end of tomorrow's show. But we are going to talk about Koy Moore. Auburn adds another wide receiver via the transfer portal. Koy Moore, he spent some time at LSU. He entered the portal back in October, and there kind of became some rumblings going into the weekend. He took his official visit. A few people put a crystal ball projecting him to commit to the Tigers, and saw him at the park over the course of the weekend with Trevon Reed. He's a Louisiana guy, and so they're like, if you're a Louisiana guy, you get to hang out with Trevon Reed and then eventually come to Auburn, because that's how it all works. But looking at this guy, I'm excited about what he brings to the table, Lindsay. And here's kind of my takeaway when I look at some of what Koy Moore is. I believe he has a chance to be the wide receiver that this coaching staff wants Shedrick Jackson to be. And what I mean by that is a guy that's not going to take the top off of a defense. He's not going to be a guy that catches the ball behind the line of scrimmage, but he's going to do the stuff that helps you move the chains on second and long, third and short, through the passing game. I don't think he's going to be elite 20 yards or more downfield, but I think he can do some stuff in that intermediate to a little bit more shallow than that, around 10 yards downfield, and help your offense stay on the field. That's what I see with Koy Moore. 6 foot, around 180. I think I saw one place list him at 190. So, I mean, that's a pretty solid. That is a pretty thick wide receiver, and not the tallest, but he seems to be physical. And to me, that's a lot of what I see when I see Shedrick Jackson. I think that's what his role is going to be carved out in this offense.
Yeah, and talking about physicality, some of the scouting reports that I've read said that he has a skill for going up and high pointing the ball, something they can see in practice. They've seen him doing limited reps. So very much that third down security blanket kind of guy that we expected Shedrick Jackson to be, and what they started off trying to use him as. Go out. We need 8 yards. He's going to get you 9. He's going to run a hitch. He's going to run an out. He's going to go to the sticks, get you exactly what you need. And a guy that, if he integrates into the offense quickly, can be one of those like volume guys for Auburn. We have a legacy of having like that guy who just gets tons and tons of touches from the wide receiver position, going back to, some of the Davis guys. And so I could see him being somebody who gets the ball early and often, and in key situations when we have to get a first down.
Yeah, his build is bigger than those guys, but it's a different regime, right? It's a different philosophy. I think Bryan Harsin is going to want his guys to be bigger than what the previous regime did. And so this kind of fits that. And as far as his path to playing time, I think just due to his experience, I think he's got a chance for it. Normally guys that enter at this point of the year, like Dazalin Worsham, it's like, okay, I don't think they're going to really contribute in 2022. I think this guy has the ability to do that. I think he has reps. I think he has enough film. I think he understands what it takes to start in the Southeastern Conference. I think it has a chance to be a really good pickup, Lindsay. I really do.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he didn't leave because he's not good. He just left because of, playing time. He left because he needed a chance to be the guy. And
the timing of him leaving and then staying in the portal as long as he did, it kind of makes me wonder if grades mattered. I don't know that. I was told that by somebody that covers LSU that was part of the speculation. But regardless, Auburn wouldn't have added him if that wasn't cleared by now.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the grades for LSU, you definitely don't have the grades for Auburn. But the fact that it was so soon after the end of the term for both LSU and Auburn makes me think that like there's some credence there because of when grades post and things like that.
Sure, right.
And we know that that's something Auburn does a lot of work up front about making sure that academic credits and grades can transfer in. We've had that conversation. So, yeah, definitely a guy that can contribute. He's played in enough games. I haven't found the stats yet if he actually shared the field with TJ Finley and has any sort of receptions from TJ Finley. Haven't found that yet. Still looking for that. But either way, just saying a lot of good stuff about him. Been impressed with what I've heard and read so far.
Well, he played in 2022, so I think there's a chance of that, right?
Not in 22, but in 21, maybe. Finley was here for 22.
Yeah, I meant 2020. I'm an idiot. But yeah. So possibly, I'm sure they know each other, if nothing else. So just moving forward now, though, he seems to be an outside guy in this style of offense, which is what Auburn needed. I think they have plenty of guys that they feel comfortable putting in the slot, which is funny because he's only 6 foot. Some places have him listed at 6'1", like not a super tall guy, but I think with like some in-breaking routes, and that's stuff that Shed Jackson was good at last year. They didn't use him in that capacity a ton. Was lining him up on the outside of the field and sending him inside. I think this is something that Koy Moore could benefit from too. And so I don't know if maybe he has a chance to be, the guy behind Shed Jackson with getting a few reps a game and maybe more and more over the course of the season. Or maybe they just bring him in and say, okay, you're going to be the 4th receiver on this team. And then when Shed Jackson's gone, you got a chance to be a solid guy. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. And he's eligible immediately, obviously. And so there's a lot of different ways this could go. And I don't really see any of them being bad.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he can catch the ball in traffic kind of right there tells you, okay, that's obviously something that Auburn's got to have, crossers, slants, things like that come through the middle of the field. And I just find it really funny that like they brought him on campus for a visit on Friday and he committed almost right away. And it's like, okay. I mean, and that's what we've been saying for so long. And that's kind of what hamstrung Harsin at the very beginning was the inability to get guys on campus. Like when you come on campus, that's the differentiator Auburn has. And funny story, I was actually making my way to the media room at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And I actually went through the football locker room where they had everything set up for the photographs and they had the uniforms and everything. Yeah. So I saw some stuff out there and you could tell they had been busy doing some stuff on Friday for these guys, getting them, photos in the uniforms and the publicity stuff. And that's just kind of what has like, this is our thing. You get somebody on campus, they're coming to Auburn.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
No, I think that's great. Lindsay Crosby, our guest today. Now I want to take a moment to tell you about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline is the #1 place to bet on all of your sports action. Saw a ton of lines this weekend for the college baseball World Series or the college baseball tournament. Of course, you can get in on the action there. But also the NBA finals are going on. Major League Baseball is heating up. They've got it all at BetOnline, including futures for the NFL and the college football season. The over-under for total wins for Auburn is still 5.5. So if you are a believer in the Tigers this season, there's no reason not to put your money where your mouth is for that. BetOnline, where the game starts. Lindsay Crosby, I want to now kind of just take a look at the wide receiver position moving forward.
Okay. And
it's still fascinating to me how it's deeper. The position group is significantly deeper, even with, us not really knowing a whole lot about Dazalin Worsham and knowing a little bit more about Koy Moore. Depth seems to be there. The bodies seem to be there. But you just look at career yards and total receptions for these guys, and it's crazy. Koy Moore, 27 career receptions, for just 248 yards in his entire collegiate career. And he comes in with under 250 yards to his name, and he is third. He's third among Auburn's roster. I mean, that's amazing as far as receivers go. That's amazing. So Shed Jackson leads away, 50 catches for 657 yards. Javarius Johnson, 19 catches for 274. Koy Moore, 27 catches for 248. Then it drops off to Zevion Capers having 13 catches for 131 yards. Not gonna lie, I thought he had more than that in his freshman year when he played a lot. I guess not.
Same.
Malcolm Johnson Jr., 6 catches for 82. Landon King, 5 catches for 59 yards. And that's the list. Everyone else has no catches. Tavares Dawson, Jay Fair obviously doesn't. Camden Brown, Amari Kelly, Dazalin Worsham. I mean, it's just amazing to go down all of these guys, and it's like, goodness gracious, there's just not a whole lot of experience here at all. What, 5 guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 receivers. Auburn has 6 receivers who have caught a pass. 6. That's amazing.
Out of 11 scholarship guys plus Landon King. I mean, like, that's counting a tight end in there because he's that hybrid guy. I mean, really, it's something where good and bad to this, right? Obviously, I mean, the bad is these guys now have to go through, a lot of them have to go through that learning curve and those tough times on the fly. But the good thing is this doesn't mean that any one person is established. This is the guy. There is no way he does not start. Now, that's probably very likely. It's probably very likely Shedrick Jackson's the first guy out there week 1. But like, I think one of the big arguments here, and I probably played a part into Moore and Worsham's recruitment, was playing time. We don't have a stud coming back. We don't have an obvious number 1 and number 2 and number 3 receiver returning that you're going to be stuck behind no matter how hard you work. Harsin's whole thing is you come in, work hard, learn the offense, put in the effort, and if you're good, you will get a chance to play. And that's the good thing about Worsham. Has no career receptions. Moore had some decent run in his freshman year. I think he had like a 6-catch, 60-something yard game against Ole Miss in 2020. Okay. But like 22 catches for 177 his freshman year. But he can earn playing time through the summer and the fall.
I hope so. And I don't know the timeline of when he'll get on campus for summer stuff. I think that window is still available. I think he can still move in and enroll. But still, like, you're not going to be able to practice in front of coaches until the fall for the first time. But what gives me more hope with Moore being able to play right away over Worsham is Moore has gotten on the field before. One, that's the obvious one. But the other one is Moore's done it in the SEC at in an era where LSU has done such a good job of putting wide receivers on the field. And that to me is telling. Like, in the fact that he was in the same conversation with some of the guys that they've had is encouraging. I mean, this guy was a 4-star coming out of high school. He was a top 300 recruit in essentially all of the major recruiting outlets. Like, there's a lot to like about the potential of this guy. It's just how quick can he be integrated into the offense? That to me is the biggest question, Lindsay.
Yeah, and it's something where that's kind of up to him, and we don't necessarily know. But if Bryan Harsin's recruiting him, that tells me that Harsin's identified that he's a hard worker, identified that he has the right mindset to get better, and the grinder and all of the stereotypes that we always put onto the Harsin guys that he recruits. Yeah, and I think that having been on the same roster as TJ Finley, hopefully that there's that sort of pre-existing relationship, not necessarily on the field, but just a relationship as far as off the field, somebody who he can go to with questions, he can get help from. And then you do have guys like Shedrick Jackson, who not a ton of production, but is a senior, has been in the SEC for 4 years now, knows what he's doing and can kind of, hopefully is taking that leadership role in the locker room and helping some of these younger guys like a Worsham, going to help a guy like a Moore learn the playbook, learn the idiosyncrasies of playing in the SEC and how to get on the field.
Yeah. I'm there with you. So if you had to pick a guy on this roster right now But as far as going into the season, I am totally putting you on the spot here. I did not tell you I was going to ask you this.
You're good.
But if you had to pick a receiver on this roster now that is impacted negatively via playing time because of this addition, who would you say this hurts the most?
So I probably think about a guy that's in a similar position to what Moore is going to do as far as like an outside receiver, but an intermediate kind of mid-level guy.
Yeah, I put you
probably somebody like a Zevian Capers or a JJ Evans. I mean, somebody who has been here, but hasn't necessarily gotten a ton of run.
Sure.
And now you're bringing in a talented player who can take snaps away from them. I mean, Zevian Capers is a guy, and their games aren't the same, but is a guy that hasn't, like you said, hadn't had a ton of opportunity. We thought he had more than he did, had less playing time in year 2 than year 1. And now you've brought in 2 guys at his same position who they're shorter, but similar kind of builds and similar sorts of games. I think Capers has more top end speed, but similar kinds of games. And so what does that do to him? Does he find a way to get himself on the field anyway? Does he end up losing even more reps? What happens?
Right. I'm looking at Koy Moore's numbers through Pro Football Focus last year. And I mean, small sample size here. He's targeted 9 times for 5 catches, 71 yards last year in the 5 games that he played in. But his receiving grade is a 64.9, and his drop grade was a 76.3. So he takes care of the football. That's something that's
love that.
Nice to see. But yeah, those are really the only things that stand out to me. He had a good fumble rating too. So good as in he took care of the football. But once again, it's just such a small sample size for what we saw last season. But still, you gotta perform what you have. And then looking at 2020, the sample size was a little bit bigger. Played in 10 games, 33 targets. He caught 22 of them for 177 yards. His receiving grade was a little lower, 62.7%. But still had a good drop rating and a good fumble rating. So took care of the football, just did not get the football as much as he probably would like, which we all assume is why he entered the portal. And he should be able to get on the field, I think, early this season.
It's very interesting that he got less opportunities in 2021 and yet performed better with those opportunities. Now, again, small sample size caveat. That could have just been he had a couple good plays on film, but just kind of interesting that from the outside grading numbers, he was better as a wide receiver and yet had less opportunity to perform and less reps. And so obviously something where he wasn't happy for, felt that he probably could have done more and gotten a bigger role, enter the portal, and is now here. Hopefully we can give that to him.
Right. Lindsay Crosby, our guest. Hey, Plainsman Park in the Auburn Regional over the weekend is everything Auburn's about. And I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that in just a moment. Today's show brought to you by Built Bar. They've got a new flavor, caramel brownie. Are you kidding me? Don't you love chewy, chocolatey brownie? What about a caramel brownie with caramel swirled on top? It's so good. And what if I told you that you can have all the chewy, chocolatey deliciousness plus 17 grams of protein? Well, you're in luck because caramel brownie bars are available at built.com right now. And you got to act fast because they're a fan favorite and they're going to be gone quick. But forget about dessert. They're better than dessert. Plus, the macros are unreal. 130 calories, 70 grams of protein, just 4 grams of sugar. I would replace a regular brownie with a Built caramel brownie bar in a heartbeat. So go check it out and a bunch of other flavors and products that they have at built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off. Built.com, promo code LOCK15 for 15% off. Built.com. Lindsay Crosby, before we jump into a little bit of the Auburn Regional, I just want to talk about the recruiting aspect and just what all was going on there. But what all do you have going on? Auburn Daily's popping. Locked On MLB Prospects is popping. Give us an update real quick.
Yeah, wild time of the season right now. College is in postseason, obviously, so I've been writing just about every single day at auburndaily.com, whether it's breaking down the previous game, previewing the next day. Auburn never knows who they're going to play, until right before the game happens, just about. So lots of writing there. draft season's coming up for MLB. So Locked On MLB Prospects is doing we're doing a lot of mock draft stuff. My first mock draft actually drops on Tuesday, on tomorrow. Nice. So check that out. It's gonna be a fun one there. And then, the merch at AU shirts. I mean, when these players are performing the way that they are, the fans are showing their appreciation, showing their love by going out and getting some of the merch, partnering with the players. So AUshirts.com as well is just absolutely popping off. You can follow all that stuff. I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball, and I'm talking about all of it.
Lindsay, the Auburn Regional was incredible, especially with what happened Friday night. It's the most packed I've ever seen Plainsman Park. It's the most loud and energetic I've ever seen Plainsman Park. And to me, it just shows when the Auburn fan base needs to step up, they do it. And they do it in droves. And even folks that haven't been following this team all season, they're aware of what's happening. They learn the team. They learn the players. They learn what's happening and how the postseason works, because baseball is different than other sports that they typically follow. And they latch on, and they're instantly passionate about it. But not only that, and the support and just the visuals of, seeing folks in the outfield now with that Operation Atmosphere that they launched, and seeing folks behind third base, just lining all three levels of the parking deck. I mean, that was cool. But also just seeing Auburn come out, and like Bruce Pearl stood behind home plate for the vast majority of the game and just took pictures with fans for pretty much the whole game. Like, that was really cool. You saw all of the men's basketball team. They were walking around taking pictures with folks. You saw the entire women's basketball team there as well, with signs showing support. It was a really cool thing. And then you also saw, Trevon Reed walking back and forth with recruits that were on visits. And it's just like the guy's rocking shades, even though it's dark out. And it's just like, man, he looks so cool. Like, he is the coolest looking person on the planet. He was wearing his like receiver gloves the whole time. And it's like, Trevon, I love you. I love you so much. You're incredible.
Get you a Trevon Reed.
Yeah. But it would, I mean, you covered it from a different angle. I was there more as a fan. You were there as media, but like, it was a really, really cool thing.
Yeah. And Butch Thompson had a great comment post-game Saturday after the Florida State victory, drubbing, beating, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Landslide. And he said, for the first time in a while, the atmosphere in Plainsman Park is kind of like a football or a basketball game. And to me, that was one of the big telling things. The NCAA worked so hard to make everything equal. Auburn was the visiting team for game 2 because Florida State hadn't had a chance to be the home team yet. Like, the NCAA worked so hard to try to level everything. And the only differentiator that Auburn gets is the fact they sleep in their own beds and they have the fans behind them. And the fans have just been fantastic all weekend. It's been lines at the gate when they opened. It's been loud. It's been noisy. You've been drowning out Florida State Seminoles. They have their dumb chants, and you've been drowning them out between helmet guy and just fans on their own and students being loud. There was one point, I want to say it was maybe third or fourth inning. I'm sitting in the press box and I just turned to somebody and I'm like, we get paid to do this. We get paid to come to this environment and watch baseball. It's great. And it's been absolutely fantastic this weekend.
Yeah, it's been cool. And so just to see all of the different sports come in and support it was really, really cool. And even Friday night, I guess that was the night that they took the official visitors, or maybe the unofficial visitors too, into Jordan-Hare. And like, they were given a light show. And so you could see that from my seats as well. It was just a really cool environment. And I think Auburn stepped up, and I think Auburn delivered. And so if you were there Friday night, shout out to you. I think that was an incredible environment. I know this baseball team appreciates it. Like I said earlier, we'll recap the weekend on tomorrow's show, the last segment of tomorrow's show. So it'll be Charlie Tuesday for the first 2 segments, and Lindsay will come back for the final segment. But until then, Lindsay, how can people find you one more time?
I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. My show, Locked On MLB Prospects, is available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Big week coming up with MLB draft stuff coming up. The writing, auburndaily.com. I'm dropping stuff just about every single day. And then the merch, aushirts.com.
Check it all out. Lindsay Crosby does it all at an elite level, folks. We'll be back tomorrow. Little Charlie Tuesday action as Auburn message board legend Charlie 5 joins us. We'll talk a little bit more Koy Moore. We're not going to be coy about it. You know what I'm saying. This has been Locked On Auburn.